Hello, everybody out there in Facebook land. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday, April, I don't know what it is, April 7th. So 4/7/20. Another day in the quarantine. Hope everybody's doing great. It was a very rainy day here today, and it just cleared up, like literally just now. I can see blue sky, I can see cirrus clouds, I can see sun. You can probably see it too, which is awesome. It literally rained all day. I went for a run this morning early, like 7:45, and it wasn't raining, but probably halfway through the run it started raining, so it was a pretty wet run. So anyway, I had planned yesterday to make this white turkey chili because I knew it was going to be rainy and nasty, and I love to eat this kind of food when it's rainy and nasty outside, kind of like last night I made tomato soup. So we're gonna get started now. I posted the ingredients on this yesterday, so if you're cooking along with me, hopefully you bought those ingredients, and I'm happy to post the recipe. I've actually had this recipe for a long time. This is a very old Bon Appetit ripped out of the magazine, and it goes in 2 pages, and it's got all kinds of stains on it. And this is from Bon Appetit 1996. That was even before I moved here to San Diego. I moved here in 1997. So it's a very old recipe, but I've been making it for a long time, and it's really good. It's probably my all-time favorite chili recipe. There's another one I like quite a bit that is made with beef brisket and butternut squash. But that's a little more work to make. Brisket's hard to work with, and anyway, I like this one better. So I'm gonna go ahead and start and turn down my music. We got a little B-52's Deadbeat Club. I love the B-52s. This is not my favorite song, but we'll go with that. All right, so this recipe that I have here only calls for 4 servings. I'm going to at least double that, probably double and a half it, because I just we eat a lot of it, and then I usually freeze probably half of it. You know, I leave it here for maybe a couple of days, and we just eat it, and then whatever's left, I freeze. So let's see what is on tap here. Garlic. Lots of garlic and onion. So I'm gonna start with the onion because you don't want to put the garlic in first because it tends to burn. So if you have the onion in there as a buffer, that is much better. Hey Susan, how are you doing? Now you guys have your awesome restaurant in, is it Nebraska? Did you move to Nebraska? I think you moved to Nebraska. It's Nebraska or one of the Dakotas, but I'm pretty sure it's Nebraska, which is awesome because, as you know, I'm from Iowa, and you lived in Minnesota for a long time, which I have 2 brothers that live in Minnesota. Great state. The Midwest is awesome. Gotta say though, I have no regrets moving out here to San Diego. Okay, so you're gonna chop these onions, and since this is a chili, I'm gonna chop these a little smaller. You can use a food processor to chop these, to make them even smaller if you want. Problem with the food processor is that sometimes if you don't process it correctly, you are going to obliterate and pulverize the onions. My dog wants me to throw his ball, but I'm not going to. Yeah, just closed our, oh, that's too bad. Just closed our curbside delivery. That's a bummer. I guess you weren't getting enough business. I don't know. People are, you know, you're in a smaller town now. But I know our favorite restaurants are all doing curbside pickup, which is great. Frankly, we have not been taking advantage of it because I've been cooking, which I love to do. So I feel kind of guilty about that because I feel like I should be supporting them more. But I'm gonna get probably tired of cooking as much as I'm cooking right now. So we'll probably start doing that. Chase, he's a little wacky. I mean, he's deaf, and so his other senses are very acute. He's very acutely aware of everything around him except sound because he can't hear anything. So a little olive oil in a big pot. So I'm using quite a large pot because I'm doubling it. It's just easier to brown the meat and to work with everything when it's in a bigger pot for me. I have a really nice Calphalon pot, probably about half the size that could work, but given that I'm going to increase the size of everything, I'm gonna go with the bigger one. So you dice these onions. It calls for, now this serves 4. Like I said, I'm at least doubling it. It calls for a half a cup of minced onion. And I'm gonna put in a lot more than that. It's chili, so the onion gives it a nice flavor, and it's cooked enough so the onion is not gonna be super strong flavored. So cut the onion in whatever size you want in terms of pieces and chunks. I don't like it too small, but I don't know if I'm gonna need a whole separate onion. So let's just cut this in half. Save some of this. I go through a lot of onion in my house when I'm cooking because I make a lot of soups, and it's in almost every soup. I made this tomato soup last night, and a friend of mine asked me, because she saw me post the picture, if I had done a live on that, and I hadn't. I think I did a live on a cauliflower soup I made over the past week or two. I could be wrong though. It all kind of is blending together. And it's basically the same thing. I make a lot of soups, and what I do is, usually it's a vegetable soup. Usually I start with onion and garlic, and I saute that just like I'm doing here in olive oil or ghee, depending on what kind of soup I'm making. And you caramelize that a little bit, just soften it. Oh man, this one is making my eyes water. It doesn't always happen, but it's happening tonight. Woo. I know they have onion goggles, but I don't go that far. It's going to a little stream for me. Okay, forgot to put on the fire. Now it's gonna make me cry even more. I'm so sad. I'm not sad, but oh, it does hurt. Anyway, sauteing the onions and the garlic in olive oil first, and then add, for example, like yesterday I made tomato soup. I just used canned tomatoes because I did not have fresh, and I think I put 3 16-ounce cans of, I think they were just chopped tomatoes. You can use pureed, you can use whole, you can use any kind of tomato you want, and some water and get that going. And then I put some basil in there, that's really key. Pepper, a little bit of salt because the tomatoes are not salted, and just let that cook for a while. Then you take a stick blender and puree it basically, and then you can add cream, you can add sour cream, you can add cream cheese, whatever you want. So that's what I do. I do that with cabbage, I do that with cauliflower, I do it with all kinds of things. So that is, about an onion and a half. That looks like it's about, it's not quite 2 cups. Now garlic, it calls for 1.5 tablespoons of garlic, which is a lot of garlic, but it tastes really good, so don't be afraid of that. I'm gonna put in more than that because I like garlic. Garlic's actually really good for you, and it really gives this chili a nice flavor. You know, this is a fairly subtle chili. It's nothing like a chili powder chili. The primary spice in this is cumin, and sorry, my eyes. So it's very subtle. Cumin and the onion and garlic obviously flavor it. The chicken broth provides flavor. And then 2 other spices that are in here are marjoram and summer savory. Summer savory can be a little challenging to find, but I highly recommend you utilize all those spices. The marjoram and the summer savory together really make it a wonderful flavor. And then, like my dad, I made this for him a long time ago, probably in 1997 or 1998, and he loved it, and he took the recipe and he's adapted it and changed it, and it's his nature to just put like a gazillion things in any recipe, and that's not an insult, but it's just his nature. I kind of do that, but in a different sort of way. I really don't follow rules. Recipes, I don't follow recipes very well either. But yeah, he puts everything in there. I'm sure he put beer in there. I'm sure he put probably Worcestershire sauce. Those are kind of mainstays, and who knows what else, but lots of stuff. But anyway, he won a chili cook-off with it, with his adapted recipe. Hey Mark, Susan, Lauren, delivery time. Every time I cry, you know, with the onions, I don't cry every time, but man, this one was pretty juicy, and I cried. Coronavirus cry. Actually, you know, I know it's a horrible tragedy, this coronavirus. And I know a lot of people are affected by it, affected in really negative ways. Obviously, we're affected by it, you're affected by it. Hey, Mary. But, you know, we're not affected in horrible negative ways. So I count my blessings on that. very, very grateful that we're able to handle this financially, being self-employed, not being able to get unemployment or anything like that because we're self-employed, and to deal with it. And luckily we live in San Diego, so we've got our outside, and our kids, you know, they're dealing. Colton's mountain biking a lot, not the past couple days because it's been raining. Carson has some work to do. She did an ACT practice test the other day. Anyway, all kinds of crazy things. So, in a lot of ways, it is what you make of it. I mean, yeah, learn a language. I'm not going to be learning any new languages. But there's a lot of stuff that we can do. And I'm still working, but I'm cooking. I'm cooking and I'm baking and I'm eating and I'm exercising a lot. I mean, I already do, but I'm exercising now even more than I usually do. And I started running again, which is great. I really like that. So, you know, you got to look at the silver lining. And there is one. There are a lot of silver linings here. And just fortunately that we're not horribly affected by it. Okay, so the onions are in here in olive oil. Let them get going, then add the garlic. Lots and lots and lots of garlic. As you can see, I prefer garlic press. You could totally chop these if you wanted the garlic. You can also put them in a food processor. Like there are a couple dishes I make, a couple big parties I throw over here when I need a lot of onion or a lot of garlic. And if I'm doing that many, sometimes I will go ahead and chop the garlic in a food processor, chop the onions in a food processor. You just have to be very careful because not so much on the garlic, but the onions will literally turn into like raw onion soup. And then you open up that thing and talk about crying and your eyes tearing up. Whew! So this smells really good, sauteed onions and garlic. So go ahead and put that in there. I don't know if this is like the equivalent of 3 tablespoons of garlic, but that's all right. Maybe I'll put in some in a little bit when I get moving on this. It might not seem simple, but this is actually a pretty simple recipe. There are not a lot of ingredients. Turkey and chicken and garlic and onion, chicken broth and spices. I do put in carrots, which is kind of odd to put carrots in chili, but I really like the flavor of the carrots in here and the texture. Probably the texture more than anything. I like the texture of the carrots. So I just take a couple carrots and peel them and then chop them and put them in when I add the chicken broth and everything else. And this cooks for about probably 45 minutes till it's ready for the beans, assuming you use canned beans like I am. If you're going to use dried beans, that's going to take a little longer, quite a bit longer in fact, and it's just a little more hassle, so I don't generally do that. All right, so we've got the onion, the garlic, the olive oil, and now it's going to ask for the spices. I'm very garlicky in my hands. Colton's in there playing Xbox. Ron Wild, you gave us an Xbox, I don't know, a long time ago, because there was a kid that, whatever, I won't get into those details, but you gave us this Xbox, and you know, I'm not a fan of video games. There are plenty of other things for these kids to be doing besides video games, especially living here in San Diego, but he asked if he could have it the other day, and I said, well, I'm making him do things to earn it. So he's been doing those things, which is great, and he's earning it, so that's what he's doing now. Okay, vegetable oil, onion, garlic. Now it's asking to put in the cumin. Add the cumin and stir until fragrant, about 30 seconds. So what the recipe says is 4 teaspoons of cumin, which is equivalent to 1 tablespoon plus another teaspoon. For those of you who know that, I'm going to put in 2 heaping tablespoons, which is probably the equivalent of 3 tablespoons, because the cumin is just so good. So you put that in here. You should have enough liquid from the onion and the garlic. And you might want to turn down your heat a little bit because you don't want this to burn. But it gives it a very fragrant smell, very pungent in a good way. So that's going to go in here. And then you're going to want your turkey or chicken. So you're going to use, let me just read the directions so you have them. Add cubed turkey breast and ground turkey. I'm going to start with the ground. I do not have turkey breast. I do have chicken thighs, so that's what I'm going to use. I use a organic turkey ground organic turkey, and you can buy this at Costco. That's where I buy it. Just throw it right in there. I'm going to be using 2 of these, and this is probably, it only calls for a half a pound. I don't think that's enough. I mean, maybe for 4 servings it is, but this is probably more like at least 2.5 pounds. I don't really know. I just think it tastes really good in here, and so does the cubed. Sometimes I don't have the cubed chicken or turkey. And where did my spoon go? Oh, I buried my spoon. Sometimes I don't have that, and so I will just do the ground, but it's not as good. The cubed breast or thigh gives a much different texture to it, because you've got these, you know, the ground turkey is going to dissipate quite a bit, more so than a beef would, like in a beef chili where it kind of stays in chunks. So the cubes really give it that texture of a bite and a chunk of chicken. So like I said, I do not have breasts, so I'm going to be using thighs. These are boneless, skinless thighs. They're going to have a little more fat on them, but not a big deal. I just cut them into pieces that could basically be bite size. And same with the white. And it's kind of good to have the dark because it doesn't get as overcooked as the chicken breast would get. So this is, I don't know, 1 little package from Costco. I have no idea how much that weighs. I don't have a kitchen scale. The big chefs say that's important, but to me that's just a rule I have to follow. I really don't like rules. Okay, so soups. Soups are great because you can make a big batch like I'm doing here, and then you can freeze them. So you can freeze them in a big Ziploc, and then you have another meal, another time, another week, another month, when maybe you don't have a quarantine and have a lot more time on your hands. And I also do this with pizza, like I made pizza last week, I think, the other day, and I'm losing track on time. And I made 3 big pizzas, and I saved some for leftovers for the next day, but then I froze the rest. I cut it up and I froze it, and then when you reheat that, you will reheat that in the toaster oven or in the oven. I mean, you could do it in the microwave, but it's gonna be soggy. So again, there's another meal that you don't have to cook during the busy times when you're more busy. I mean, a lot of you are still working. Most of us are still working, but even though I'm still working, I'm not as busy. Let me finish this. I need another Kleenex. This onions now make my nose run. But that's okay. No coronavirus here. So I hope you're all coping okay with everything, and I hope you're enjoying something out of this, some time with your family, lots of movies, some books, learning a language. Who wants to learn a language at 54? Not me. Bad enough learning a language the first time. I wish I would have learned Spanish though. That was not available to me in my little small town. Movies though, I've been watching a lot of movies. Last night we watched The Invisible Man, which is a current release movie in the theaters. However, since the theaters are closed, they made that available to us, the public, for a rental fee of $20. So, you know, the movies that we go to here in San Diego are basically 20 bucks a piece at Sinopolis, which is a really nice theater. So I figure, well, what the heck? I want to watch the movie. And so we paid the 20 bucks to rent it. It was actually really good. I enjoyed the movie very much. I mean, I don't think it's going to win any awards, but I really liked it. Okay, this is looking great. So what you're going to want to do is, I'm going to get short for you. You're going to saute this until the meat is no longer pink, basically. So that's why having a bigger pan like this is helpful, because it's really hard to saute them if everything's stacked up on each other. Okay, so I'm going to just let that keep cooking because it's not done. I'm going to put a little more olive oil in there because it needs it, because turkey doesn't have as much fat as beef does. So you might need a little more oil than you otherwise would, for example, if you're doing a beef chili. but it looks great. I think you're really gonna like this. It is served once it's done with sour cream, cheddar cheese, sliced green onions, jalapenos, whatever you want to put on there. So I'm going to finish the ingredients for this. It calls for jalapenos. I do not have fresh. You can use fresh, or you can use, you can use jarred, or you can use these ones in a can. This is La Costeña sliced jalapenos. It calls for 2 tablespoons chopped fresh. So these aren't going to be as spicy as the chopped fresh. So I'm going to put a little more in here, plus I'm doubling it. These are great for cooking in any kind of thing you're going to braise, or I make a carnitas that's incredible. And these just go right in there and braised, and it just gives such a great flavor. So I'm just going to chop these up. Again, you want the chopping fairly fine because this is going to be a chili. And if you like your chili a little chunkier with chunks of vegetables in it, then you might not want to do it quite so fine. So I'm going to chop a few extra and leave them out, and then I'm going to check the flavorings at the end so it's not too spicy for the kids, and then I might add more. They don't like it super spicy. Although I put some chipotle pepper in my tomato soup last night and no complaints. It had a little heat to it. So whatever trips your trigger on the heat level. Some people like it extremely spicy, but obviously you can still add hot sauce at the end, and I always do. I like Cholula with this because it's just a little more mild flavored hot sauce than say a Tabasco or something like that. But whatever hot sauce you like, that'll work. So just keep doing that, mixing it all up till it's all the pink is gone. I'm gonna chop up these carrots too. The recipe does not call for carrots. I just like carrots in there. Chop off the end and then just do like a little piece again that you can bite, because it's gonna be like you'd have a carrot in a soup. So for me, it's about that big. Hey, Joe. Yeah, hey, well, it's pretty good, huh? He says great Spanish. La Costeña, La Costeña. Good enough, right? Joe is awesome. He is a cabinet maker, among other things, and he redid my kitchen for me. It was just about a year ago finished. And he redid my kitchen the first time I redid it, which I was pregnant with Colton, and we added on to the house because we both worked at home, so we were giving up an office for another kid bedroom. And it was a beautiful kitchen, cherry wood. He's a custom cabinet maker, and he does amazing, amazing work. So if anybody needs your kitchen done, or a closet done, or a bookcase, or a bathroom, or anything dealing with wood like that, ask me, and I'll give you his number, because he is incredible, and it's literally completely custom. He does non-custom as well. I mean, it's still custom, but you know what I mean. He can do the ones where you buy them pre-made. But he did custom here, and so every single, like I can't show you now because the camera's facing me, but if you look over here, these 2 cabinets around the window, one of them is significantly bigger than the other one, but I wanted cabinets there because that's where I wanted my glassware. So anyway, just a little side note, Joe is amazing. I highly recommend him. Actually, he's done a couple kitchens around the neighborhood who saw my first kitchen remodel and loved him so much, so he does great. Okay, add the cumin, stir until fragrant. Add the cubed meat, my recipe from 1996, till no longer pink, about 4 minutes. It's going to take a lot longer than that, at least the way I do it. Okay, now you add the stock, the barley, the jalapenos, the marjoram, and the savory. So with regard to stock, if you've watched me before, you know I like to use a thing called Better Than Bouillon. So we're going to use that again. It's a chicken stock concentrated, essentially. And it's kind of like a paste, and it's organic, and there's chicken and there's beef, and you just basically put this in with water. And much, much easier than dealing with one of those pets. The family grew up 13 kids. I can't see because your name went away. 13 kids. I did bring my computer though, so I can reference things, but I'll look at that in a minute because I want to get this going. 13 kids, that's a lot of kids. Okay, I'm gonna put this in there. the jalapenos, but not all of them. And I know that I use this cutting board for the chicken, but all of this stuff is going in there. So don't freak out over that. Chicken's kind of gross. I don't like dealing with it, but I do like it, and it tastes good in here. So it's just kind of slimy and nasty, you know? And of course you do, because you probably deal with it too. But you have to be careful of it. You don't want to cut a bunch of raw chicken on a cutting board and then cut stuff for a salad on the same cutting board unless you clean it thoroughly. But this cutting board is only utilized for the things that are going into the chili and going to be cooked. So I'm not too worried about that. So stir this up, make sure it's not sticking. We'll put the spices in there. So marjoram, it calls for 1 teaspoon. Marjoram, I'm gonna put more than that. I'm just gonna sprinkle it, probably 3 teaspoons. And summer savory, I think it also calls for 1 teaspoon of that. Yep, so same. And then at the end, I'll taste everything together, see if it needs more of anything. So you've got the cumin, the summer savory, and the marjoram, the jalapenos. I have not put any salt in here, and I'm not gonna put any salt in here until it's further along, because the bouillon, the better than bouillon, will have salt in it. Okay, so this is ready for broth. I'm just using this, I think it calls for 3 cups, and then I'm gonna put the better than bouillon just right in there and then mix it up. 3 cups chicken stock or low salt broth. So for me that means a lot more than 3 cups. And I also put a lot more barley in than it calls for. It calls for 1/4 cup of barley. And the barley is one of the really unique things about this chili. So most chili, and it has beans in it too. The beans don't go in yet. The beans aren't gonna go in until after this has sauteed and simmered for about 40-45 minutes till the barley has absorbed all the liquid. So I'm putting 8 cups in here, and actually I'm gonna put more in. I'm putting 12 cups in. And the barley is pearl barley. You just buy it from wherever. This is Kroger, Ralph's. And it is good in soups. It's good in pot roast. Anyway, this I usually put in a whole bag, but this is a pound. But I'm missing some because I made this before, and I'm just gonna put in the rest of this. So the equivalent of, who knows the equivalent of. But usually I just put in a whole bag. Even though it only calls for 1/4 cup because it just tastes so good, and obviously I am at least doubling this. So I'd say this is maybe 1.5 cups of pearl barley. And it's a little liquidy right now, but that's gonna change significantly because as you know, turn the heat up, as you cook this, that barley is going to absorb all the liquid. And it's gonna have a really nice soft texture, soft but yet a lot of texture, along with all those flavors and the ground turkey and the chicken breast in this case that calls for turkey breast, but I don't have that, so, and I never do. I always use chicken. Okay, put that in there, cover it and simmer until the barley is almost tender, stirring occasionally about 40 minutes. So we're gonna put that away. Oh, I forgot to put the better than bouillon in, see? Sometimes you lose your train of thought here. Luckily I got my train of thought. But, it doesn't taste very good. Okay, I put in 12 cups. I think this is 1 teaspoon per cup. So just a couple of big scoops ought to do it. Again, it's just flavor. And you can always add more later if you feel like there's not enough flavor. But there should be plenty of flavor. There should be plenty of flavor with this, with all the spices. So just mix that up a little bit. I go through a lot of this. Every time I go to Costco, I buy at least 1, and usually 2. In fact, I really need to get to Costco because Easter is Sunday, and even though we're not celebrating it in the traditional manner, which for us actually, we are celebrating it in the traditional manner, we usually have people over. So we usually have the Dozers over at the very least, if not another family, and I make a big leg of lamb, which I'm not gonna do because that's a big leg of lamb. unless you got a little leg of lamb, but they're kind of big. And I make a ham for the kids because the kids don't like lamb. And then I make all this other stuff. It's like I've got my Thanksgiving meal, my Easter meal, my Christmas meal, my Cinco de Mayo stuff. So I've got it all kind of in my, my wheelhouse. But this time, it's just gonna be the 4 of us. So I'm gonna do either lamb chops, loin chops, or preferably rack of lamb, which is what I'm looking for, but I can't find it anywhere. Costco doesn't have it, Ralph's doesn't have it, and I've only looked online. I haven't actually gone into a store, but I think I'm gonna have to go into a store because I tried to order from Ralph's online, no dice. I tried to order from Costco online, no dice, no deliveries available, so I'm actually gonna have to go to the store, which I really don't wanna do. They're saying it's not a good week to do that, but I got it. And the chocolate bunnies don't just show up on their own, right? You gotta get the chocolate bunnies. And I'm still gonna hide the eggs, and I'm still gonna put a bunch of stuff in there and hide the Easter basket. So we're still gonna have Easter in that regard. And it's just, we're not gonna have our crew here and drinking champagne. We'll probably still drink champagne, I guess, and I'll make a key lime pie. So all of that will still happen. It just won't be quite the same. All right, so now we're at a little time to chill. So what I usually do during this time is get everything else ready. You're gonna need beans. I just use canned. This is my usually go-to brand, Simple Truth Organic. It's sold at Kroger, Ralph's, Garbanzo. Garbanzo and Great Northern Beans is what it calls for. Their garbanzo beans are awesome in this chili. You don't think about garbanzo beans in a chili, but they're so good. I only have 2 cans of the White Northern, and I have 3 cans of the garbanzo. That should be good. So you just open these up, drain them, and you're not gonna put these in yet. You're gonna put these in later. If they were dried, you would be putting them in now because it would take a lot longer for them to cook. So I have a big colander over here. Get these babies ready, but I just love the marriage of flavors with the cumin and the textures of everything and the flavors, and then the garbanzo beans, because the garbanzo beans really keep their firmness, whereas some beans get a little softer, like the Great Northern beans are gonna get a little softer. Hey Jess, Facebook, gloves, and hand sanitizer, and you'll be fine. Face mask. I do have a face mask. I have a little tiny bit of hand sanitizer. Not much. It's like a little pocket thing, so I guess I'll bring that. I don't have gloves. I think I'll just wash my hands a lot. I am really not that concerned, honestly. I probably should be, but I'm really not. I'll be careful. I'll be careful. Who knows? I think some of us might have already had coronavirus and not really realized it. Been asymptomatic or just had minor symptoms. Who really knows? Because they're not going to test us unless we're having shortness of breath or even trouble breathing, because there aren't enough tests to go around. Simple as that. There are going to be some antibody tests out soon, so you'll be able to tell if you were exposed to it, because your body will be producing antibodies against it. So you'll know. I wonder, because Carson, about a month ago, a little over a month ago, got really, really sick. Super high fever, and she had it for 5 days straight. And she had a headache, which is a little unusual, and a lot of fatigue and, achy flu, but with a headache and an extremely high fever. And I just took care of her and rubbed peppermint oil on her feet and lots of liquids, and I was giving her some ibuprofen, which now we know that's not what you want to do, and some Tylenol, kind of back and forth. And she kicked it. But, you always wonder, and I was in there a lot, taking care of her, obviously, and I'm thinking it's the flu. That means I'll probably get it, so I never got it. And, again, it's a lot of things that can happen there. I'm not saying she had CV, COVID, coronavirus, whatever, but she was really sick. And I didn't send her back on Friday, the day she could have gone back to school, and that was the day they canceled school. So who knows? And she had gone to Soup Plantation, which I always tell her, don't go there, you're touching everything. You don't know who's touching everything, and that's probably what got you sick. Okay, I'll stop. I don't want to badmouth Soup Plantation. Okay, so the beans are ready to go in when this is done. We're not going to do that right now. However, I am going to bring you in for partially tomorrow's meal. I'm gonna make some ribs tomorrow, baby back pork ribs, and I'm gonna put a spice rub on those tonight, so I'll get them kind of marinating, not really marinating, but a dry rub on there. So what I use for my ribs is a dry rub. Sorry, I'm switching gears on you. We've just switched to tomorrow's meal, which is baby back pork ribs. So this dry rub is all kinds of things. Paprika, a little sugar, little cayenne pepper, cumin, garlic powder, kosher salt, black pepper. If you're curious about this, I can tell you what I put in here. Chili powder. It's just a really nice rub, and I make a giant thing of it and I put it in a Ziploc. This is what I put on steaks and fish, sometimes chicken. It's just a really nice rub, and it's ready to go, and it's really super easy and delicious. So that's what I'm going to put on the ribs. I'm going to grab them out of the refrigerator. These are baby back pork ribs. I think they're baby backs. They might be spare ribs, but they look like baby back pork ribs. So I've got a little Dealy Bop here. Dealy Bop, also known as a rimmed baking sheet. You know, the English language. So these are heritage pork, which is like the equivalent of a grass-fed beef, basically. They're not factory farmed, which I'm eating less and less and less pork because I cannot stand factory farmed. And a lot of factory farmed beef and pork and poultry, I just can't do it. Can't do it anymore. So a lot more expensive, but a lot better for the animals, a lot better for the environment, and lots of other things. Okay, we're gonna dock this, which you may know is a fancy word for poke. Get a fork, and especially on the back, because there's a membrane here, you can try to get that membrane off of the back. It's really difficult to do that, so I do not bother with that. But basically I go between each rib and I dock it, fancy word for poke it. The front doesn't really need to be docked, just the back, because it's going to get through the front, no problem. Okay, and these, what I will do is I will slow cook them in the same pan, low at about 250 for, probably an hour, 90 minutes. So it's going to cook them, and they're literally going to fall off the bone. And then I typically finish them on the grill to get with a homemade barbecue sauce I make, and I'll tell you about that in a second. I'm gonna wash my hands because they're key. Okay, so those are the ribs. I'm not gonna reach my hand into there. Handy dandy measuring cup. Start with that. And I don't know if you can see this, but let's move it over so you can. You can probably see it a little bit. I'm just gonna sprinkle that on here, front and back, and I'm gonna rub it in. It's a dry rub. I love dry rubs on meat, pork, and beef in particular. I always put this on my steaks, and I also put a little bit of coffee grinds with my steaks. I don't know why. Read it somewhere, but it tastes good. If I'm really in a pinch and I don't have this made, like last week I didn't have it made, I will use Montreal steak seasoning. That is very good on steaks. And then I will put coffee on that too. And I might doctor it up a little bit, but that is a good base. Like when we're traveling and I don't have this, and I'm not gonna buy like the 8 spices to make it, I'll just buy Montreal steak seasoning. It's got a really nice blend. It's a little too salty, like everything pretty much you buy that's already processed. So here we go. Let's just put that rub all over the ribs. You're gonna just let that, it really only has to sit an hour. I'm just gonna let it sit overnight because the more flavor the better. And just put this aside for now. And that'll be tomorrow's meal. I'll probably make some coleslaw with that. Something like that. And hopefully it's not raining. It probably will be. So what I do for my barbecue sauce is, I'll get my favorite ingredient out and show you. my favorite ingredient for my homemade barbecue sauce. It's more like a dipping sauce. It's not a really sticky sauce. The key to a good barbecue sauce, and I'm not kidding you, so flippin' good. Now, a lot of you know I represented this brand for like almost 20 years, building their licensing program and especially their barbecue meats program, their ready-to-eat meats in the grocery store, and among other things. So I'm a huge fan of Jack Daniel's, the brand, the whiskey, everything about it. But my barbecue sauce is ketchup, and I use the simple one with very little in it. It's organic, and it's basically just ketchup. Ketchup, vinegar of some sort, like an apple cider vinegar. That's what I typically use. A brown sugar. So you want an acid, you want the sweet. So brown sugar, ketchup. Ketchup already has a lot of sugar in it typically. So brown sugar, ketchup, apple cider vinegar, and Jack Daniel's. And I'll put the Jack in right away. So I get that other going on a little saucepan and cooking, marrying the flavors. I usually put a little Worcestershire in there for a nice little bite. And then when that's all done and has been cooking a little bit, that's when I'll put in the Jack Daniel's. And oh my gosh, it is so good. So good. I'm actually salivating. It's got just a beautiful Kentucky, you know, I'm not gonna say bourbon because this is not a bourbon, this is a Tennessee whiskey. The parent company is from Kentucky. The recipe I got this from initially was called bourbon barbecue sauce, bourbon dipping sauce, but this ain't no bourbon, baby. This is Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey. So that is my barbecue sauce, and a little bit of red pepper flakes. If you didn't write that down, you can listen to this again, or you can just ask me and I don't know the ratios, I just wing it. I just put it in there and I taste it all along the way. I add this, I usually add more, and then I usually add more. And you know, it cooks off, but then at the end, I put a little extra in there at the end because it tastes so good. And every time we have anything with that sauce, like these ribs, and there's another chicken dish I make with it as well, it's gone. Like literally, Patrick's like, well, where's the sauce? And then it's gone, so he has to resort to the store-bought stuff, which no comparison, zero comparison whatsoever. So that is my barbecue dipping sauce. Ah, thirsty. Okay, so this, let's take a look at it. If you're doing it along with me, it's gonna be a little longer, it's gonna take longer, so just bear with it. You'll know, it's usually about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then all the barley in there will absorb the liquid, and then you're gonna add the beans when that's done, and then you can correct the seasonings. You can add salt, pepper, more jalapenos, more cumin, more savory, more marjoram, whatever you want. And it's gonna be fantastic. So again, maybe 40, 45 minutes. Then you add the beans and let that cook a little bit longer just to, again, pull all the flavors together. What this says to serve it with on the side is sour cream, grated cheddar cheese, chopped green onion. The chopped green onion really adds a nice texture to it because this is, you know, it's chili. So it's soft and you know, this is a soft meal. So having the crisp, fresh green onions, scallions, as a great addition to it. I really like the sour cream. I really like a little bit of cheese, and then I personally do Cholula sauce. So it's an incredible, incredible, incredible chili that I make, I don't know, I probably make it 5 times a year or so, but it's delicious. You can even make it in the summer, and it makes great leftovers. And like I said, if you made a giant batch like I did, the leftovers, you know, you're not gonna be able to eat the leftovers within a couple of days, just put it in a big giant Ziploc gallon bag like this and throw it in the freezer. And it'll keep really well for quite a few months, and then you just pull it out when you're ready. All right, guys, so I think, you know, I don't wanna keep you on here for another 45 minutes, but enjoy that little bit of sun that we have, because I don't think we're gonna get any tomorrow. Until maybe tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully I'll be able to get a bike ride in. I ran today, ran 4 miles this morning early, and that was great. There was nobody out. I mean, there's hardly anybody out anyway, but particularly this morning there was nobody out because it was kind of drizzly and icky. So I hope you are going to enjoy your meal tonight. I know I'm going to enjoy my meal tonight. If you have any questions whatsoever about this recipe or the rib recipe I just did or the bourbon sauce or anything, just put it down there. I'll look over the comments later this afternoon or this evening, and I'll answer any of your questions. And then I'll put this on the YouTube channel. It'll be easier to find and watch it if you want to rewatch it. So thanks everybody. Hope you have a great night. We'll see you soon. Bye.